Hey yo, it's Gluke. Welcome back. Today, we're talking about a project that I need your help on. Let's go. Okay, so here we are back in Ableton. And the project for this week is this song that I've been playing out all summer, and it's been getting a pretty good reaction every time. But where I need your help is in finishing this. So, if you've been watching the channel for a little while, you know that every 10 episodes, I like to do something a little bit special. And I thought that this week, I wanted to give this project out to anyone watching this video and see what you guys do with it, so that way we can finish this song. Now, what we're going to do is we'll listen to the track, and then I'm going to go through each of the groups, and I'll go over the sound design and also the relevant music theory that we'll need to know to understand what we can do to help build on this idea. So this is what it sounds like right now. And I'm going to start here because this is all just mix-in. You can fill in the blanks. Okay, so that's pretty much the project that we have here. Now, obviously, it sounds very empty in the build, and there's also a lot of fills where just nothing really happens. And to give you a bit of backstory, I've been working on this one for a couple months now, and I have tried probably 5 different versions of rewriting this entire song, and none of them I really liked. So what I've done for the project here is I've deleted all of the failed ideas, and I've simplified it down to just the very basics of what this song really is, like just the main ideas. To cover all of the groups here, we have our kick. Now, usually I have my kick in its own group, but the group didn't have anything on it, so I just got rid of that. But this is the kick. I've got a little bit of processing on this. This is my kick kicker, and I throw this on all of my kicks. It's just a drum bus preset that I've saved that I really like. And then a little bit of low mid cut, and I clip all of my kicks. Before you roll your eyes, this is how I get it to sound how I want. So now, to get into the drums, if you've seen any of my past videos, you know that my drum groups start to get pretty hectic really fast. So what I did was I resampled each of the groups, so we only have 3 channels in the drums. Now, we've got the hats group here. We've got the clap or the snare, whatever you want to call it. And then we've also got the fills. And on the drum group, I have just a little bit of processing. So I've got the drum drummer, which is the same thing as the kick kicker, except it's just different settings. And I've also got them all punched into a limiter, and then a little bit of EQ work, but really nothing too complex there. Now moving on to the build. With the build, I'll keep this in a separate group from the drums because I usually want the build to do something else. But all that's really in here is a couple snares and claps, as well as this womp sound. But this one's pretty straightforward. I'll save the bass for last because that's where a lot of the actual work is. For the vocals, I found this little yup sound, and I felt like it fit kind of perfectly. There's also this vocal texture layer that I put on all the snares, and I feel like it just adds a good ambience to it. Now, we've got two fills that we go back and forth between in the vocals. We have this first one, and then we've got this one, and we go back and forth between those two. Instead of having the echo on this main yeah, I resampled it so that the echo's on a separate channel. And I only have that come in on the third phrase of the drop. So then the second to last thing in this group is this tonal hit that I got from a friend's acapella. And so this one's pretty straightforward. I froze and flattened all of these, so that way you didn't have to worry about processing or anything like that. They're just clean audio stems all the way through. And we also have this pre-drop phrase here. And that is pretty much all that we have going on in this vocals group here. Now with the effects group, we've got our up, we've got our down, and we also have an atmosphere. So this is what the atmosphere sounds like. But overall, really straightforward stuff. Now, when we get into the bass, this is primarily what the project is. Like, there's really not much else going on other than a lot of bass sound design stuff. So the way that I organize my drops, I'll put the call in one group, and then I'll put the response in another group. For our call group, we have this sound, and we also have this sound. And so we pretty much just go back and forth between these two sounds. So if I just play this first sound, something you'll notice is that it sounds kind of muted. But if I hit play over and over again, it'll start to show more of the grit that's actually in the sample. And that's just because the OTTs don't activate the first time. So normally what I'll do is I will freeze these tracks so that way I get nice consistent sounds every time. To get into some of the sound design here, this whole drop essentially goes from D to C sharp. And so that's the it's this bottle hum right here. And so those are the notes that we're working with. We go from D to C sharp. Now this is the top texture layer, and this is the main rumbler with the sub. And when you put them together, you get the full drop. Now in the second phrase, all I did was duplicate the patch and then change the octave. And then in the third phrase, I got rid of the tonal qualities and just replaced it with this noise, so it gets this sort of choppy feel. And so to get into some of the sound design, it's pretty similar for all of the sounds. For the first call, the main sound of this is this square wave going through this bandpass here. And then I added oscillator B with some phase distortion from C. And C is not actually playing, but this just adds a bit more low-mid texture to it. And then we also have the sub here, which fills out the whole sound. And this is the only LFO that we're using. So this one goes to the filter, the white noise, and all three of the levels. Now in the effects, nothing new here. We've got a little bit of distortion and some hyper on a splitter. So we get the top end spread out, and we still have a nice clean low signal. In terms of the channel, I just have an Einstein, which is pretty standard issue for most of my projects. This is a rack that I made a while ago, and it has this magical ability to just fix sounds. So I threw this on there, and then I put a little bit of erosion before the OTTs so that we get a little bit more texture out of the sound. Now for the second call, it's kind of the same thing, except without the support of other sounds. And so what I did was I put LFO1 on this bandpass here. And we're still using a square wave. To change the sound of it between this one and this one, all I did was macro the cutoff here, so that way it starts higher and gets us a more aggressive sound. So I'll go ahead and freeze these two for now, so that way we don't have to worry about anything changing on us. In terms of the processing for both of these, I just used the Einstein twice. There's a lot of other stuff that's not really doing anything on the channels, but that is the meat and potatoes of the call. This whistler group here is the main part of the drop. And the way that I made this was I started with this sound. And with this sound, I've made this one a couple times before, but we have a spectral wavetable with the flute staccato, and we also have just a basic sine wave. And I made the swing manually with the LFO. So this LFO is on the level of both of the oscillators as well as the band pass here, which is making this oscillator C move a lot. Now to cover the effects really quick, OTT and distortion, really nothing new there. And I boosted some of the sub, so that way we're getting a nice loud signal. And I also slammed it into a limiter and then turned the release all the way down. And this is a really cheeky way to maximize the volume if you have really fast bass lines like this, because this is all 16th notes. And then to make this bottle hum, I pretty much did the same thing, except here we're using some detuned sine. We're still using the bandpass filter, and this was just to help with volume, because when you aim this bandpass filter, since a sine wave is just one harmonic, you can essentially adjust the volume using this. And then I did a bit of AM from B just to give it more texture. And then here we have a flanger and just a little bit of OTT, but nothing all that new. So for the pitch bend, I automated it up a half step and then back down. Now, the only other thing that we have going on in the drop here is these fills. And these fills I made, but I flattened them because I figured it would be simpler just to have a bunch of audio than a bunch of serums. So you'll still have access to the main patches that I'm using in this drop, but for the fills, we'll just have audio. So for this first fill, I just did an operator and I used the pitch envelope to have it go up. And then here we have this sound, and then we have this sound, and they just kind of keep the bounce going. So here are the first three fills, and we've just covered those. And then the final fill is this like whoop. So there's a little bit of variation in the second fill here, where I took this longer note and I just cut it in half and then added like just a really blown out tom sound just to help give it a different feel. But overall, everything is the same. Now there's really one final layer in the bass drop here, and it's really, really subtle, but I added this trap kick and I've just put it on some of the rhythms that I want to accentuate in the drop here. And the goal wasn't to add a new element, but just to subtly reinforce some of the rhythms that I wanted emphasized, and it changes the feel of the sub just a little bit in the drop so that it feels like we're getting something new, when all we've really done is add just another thud in the bass. Here's what it sounds like in the section without that little kick, and then here's the section where it does have the kick. And so it's just super subtle, but it adds just enough. That is pretty much the whole project. Using just these ingredients, there's a 4/4 drop, and then there's also a halftime drop, because I really like changing the style of drums in my songs. So with the halftime drop, pretty much all I did was just copy and paste this over here and then rewrote the drums and then got rid of some of the fills, so that way our phrase length changes just a little bit. So now we've covered everything technical that's going on in the project, and I'm going to give you some help as to how I would try to rewrite this song again if I wanted to give it another shot. The main thing that I feel like is missing from this is a melody or a main idea, whether that's just like some nice vocal or it's an actual written out melody. And it's also missing just a theme that covers the whole thing. So you can think of themes sort of like if you have jungle noises in the start of the song, you're going to want jungle noises throughout the entire song, so that way it all feels like we're in a jungle. Or, you know, if we have desert sounds or like nighttime sounds or crickets or whatever, you kind of just want to put the song into an atmosphere so that way we have something to fall back on when we're not in the drop. So I guess something we could try is just adding a really simple pluck on every single beat. And so we'll just go ahead and try to make this pluck really fast and see if it adds anything. Okay, so here's just a quick sketch of an idea that you could try. And this is what I mean by it's missing a melody. Without this little pluck here, it sounds really nice and it has a lot of movement, but there's nothing to like pay attention to in particular. So without the pluck, and with the pluck, and So when it comes to trying ideas on this project, I really don't want anyone to hold back and think I have to keep this idea or I have to keep this whistler or whatever in the project. I've found that most times the more that you destroy a project, the more new ideas can form within it. And I'll always have this project on my computer. So anything that you write, go ahead and send it to me at glukeproductions@gmail.com and we'll figure out ways to add it into this song. But that is all that I really have for you today. Now, in order to get your hands on the stems to the project, I'm going to make 4 stems. So we'll have the kick with the drums, the bass, the vocals, and the effects as full-length stems. And that will be for free on my Patreon, and you can download those. And I'll go ahead and show you what those look like. So in terms of the audio stems, this is what you'll end up getting. Here's the 4 stems here. Here's my secret trick to line them up quickly. First, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make them all their own channels. So now that we have the audio stems in Ableton, what I'll do is I'll look at the clip view, make sure they're all unwarped. Then what I'll do is I'll take all 4 of these, pull them back just a little bit, drag on the front to make sure that we have all of the clip, and then one by one, just slot them into the start of the project by using left arrow key. And then we can drag out the back, and everything should be synced up. The BPM for this song is 138, and we can also tell that we've got the BPM correct because everything will line up on the grid. And we can also turn all of the volumes back to 0. And we've remade the song. Now this is where you can start to go crazy. But yeah, so all of these audio stems are going to be for free on the Patreon. Go ahead and pick them up. I would love to see what you make with this song. For the paid Patreon members, they'll have access to the project that we were just looking at. But yeah, this is a more simpler one today, and that's because I mainly want to hear what you come up with. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. The links for the stems will be down below in the description, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.